Welcome to the Fit 15 podcast show, where you'll find health and fitness inspiration, motivation, and information shared in 15-minute episodes. Tune in while getting a move on to make leading and enjoying the benefits of a healthy lifestyle almost too easy. It's the Fit 15. And now your host, Catherine Basu.
Welcome to the Fit 15 podcast show. I'm your host, Catherine Basu, and my guest today is Dr. Casey Ann Pidich, who is a doctor, but also the owner of the glass slipper shoe blog, Dr. Glass Slipper. Dr. Pidich currently works as a podiatrist on Park Avenue in Manhattan and has over 10 years of experience taking care of New Yorkers' feet. Her current practice specializes in sports injuries. Dr. Pidich, welcome to the Fit 15. I'm so excited to have you as my guest today.
Catherine, thank you so much. I'm so excited to do this. This is my very first podcast, and like we talked about, it's the way people are communicating now, and I'm really excited to do it and be involved in your company. I'm so impressed.
Well, thank you. Well, I'm really impressed by your Instagram. I know, like we were chatting about how I feel like it's inspiring me to get my Instagram act together. So it's good to have.
Thank
good
you.
Female role models, right?
It is. I've been so impressed with everyone I've been meeting so far through Instagram. I mean, just the photos and the talent that people are putting out there. It's so incredible. It really is. And it's just been opening my eyes to different worlds, especially with health. Healthcare is a big deal.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm loving your account.
Thank you.
Obviously, you have so much, information you can share with us.
I have way too much. I have way too much content. I have I know some Instagrammers are like, oh, content's the hard part. I'm like, no, it's not. I have a lot of content.
Yeah. No, that's good. Well, I was going to say, I could take over it by asking all my questions being a marathon runner who hides her feet often, but.
Oh my gosh, it's so exciting. So when is your next marathon? What's your plan?
It's actually this weekend. So.
No way. Are you ready? Are you prepared?
I think I'm ready. My watch I used decided to stop working in the middle of a long run last weekend. So I'm a little nervous about that, but I think I have my shoe game down. And I guess one thing maybe to share with the listeners is, what are some things that you want us to stop doing when we run? I thought that was a good question.
So, that is a good question. Talking about your shoe game, I know a lot of runners don't realize that they should never wear a brand new pair of shoes for a race. It's always a bad idea. Sneakers are made of materials that will slightly compress and sort of mold to your pressure points on your foot. And it takes some time wearing in sneakers. So what is your plan usually with your sneakers?
For me, just I try to break them in and they're not too new, but not too old.
I always tell my runners, it's always best to alternate between a worn pair versus a slightly newer pair. And usually in the same brand too, stick with your favorite brand. I have my favorite brands, but every runner that comes to see me in my office, they're like, well, what do you think of this brand, doctor? I'm like, well, if that's a brand that works for you, stick with that brand. You can always try another brand, but if that's what you've always been using, stick with that brand. So it's good to know that you pretty much are educated about breaking in sneakers, because some runners are like, well, I have a brand new pair of sneakers, I'm going to wear the race. That's a really bad idea.
Well, I guess too, how do we know what the right sneaker is for us? Because you kind of alluded to, even, a brand that might be your favorite brand might not be the best one for my feet. So how do we go about figuring that out?
So some actual running stores they have people called Podiatrist. I know in New York City there are a couple.
Okay.
My favorite brands, now I'm not endorsed by any sneaker companies. I do not take money from any shoe companies. My favorite brands are Asics, Brooks, Adidas. I find that the foam that they're made out of is slightly compressible, and also just they hold your feet in really, really good when you're running. Some people have incredibly flat feet. It is important that your sneaker gives you enough support, especially in your ankles and in that arch where your foot isn't actually collapsing on itself when you're running. There's something called pronation. Now everybody pronates when they run or they walk, but someone with a really flat, flexible foot can overpronate, and that can actually cause some tendon imbalances and cause pain in the arch of their foot. Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure that your foot, when your sneakers are in your foot, that your foot is straight on and it's not actually collapsing in the arch part. That's, just from my professional opinion and watching runners and taking care of runners. So overpronation is something that's an issue with runners.
Mm. How would someone notice if they're overpronating or not, or if the shoe is not addressing that for themselves? Like should we watch ourselves running, like record ourselves running, or just kind of have an expert maybe look at our gait a little bit more?
You can do all of the above. You can watch yourself walk, mm-hmm. and see if your arch kind of collapses in the sneaker. You can also, seek a professional's help. You can even wear orthotics in your sneakers too. So an orthotic is like, have you worn orthotics before?
I have. Actually, I wasn't wearing them, and now I'm wearing them now because I've actually gone on a little journey with my running shoes lately, because I also have a bunion. So I've been like having to experiment a lot, as that's been causing me some issues. So that's a story for another podcast, probably.
Painful. Oh my gosh, bunions can be really painful. What kind of shoes do you wear?
Well, I have Brooks, and so
Brooks are great.
Yeah, I do love them, and I was in a D width, and now I'm in a double E, which keeps the bunion from bothering me. But then when I run the marathon, only during the actual marathon, lately I get my black toenails at the end, and the blisters and all that.
No, that is one thing that I see all the time in athletes. Their toenails fall out, and that's just unfortunately that's part of marathon running. Are you doing a full marathon?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Good luck.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's so impressive.
Thank you.
And then I'm like, all right, I'm done.
I mean, we all have our things, right?
Yeah. I've taken care of like so many marathon runners, half marathon runners, and it's a mindset too. It's definitely an accomplishment and something that no one can ever take away from you. Finishing a marathon or a half marathon, it's really impressive.
Hi friends, it's Catherine, and that sound is your halfway point reminder. If you are joining us for an out and back walk and only have 15 minutes, you'll want to turn around now. All right, back to Dr. Pidich.
So your question with the orthotics, sometimes orthotics do help, especially if you are an overpronator. Mm-hmm. It will stay. So pronation is just basically your two bones in your foot, your calcaneus and your talus. Sorry, don't lose me. Or let me know if you lose me.
No, you're
good. They determine the way you walk, okay? And sometimes if you're an overpronator, these bones actually move on top of each other way too much. And so what an orthotic does is it stabilizes the movement of those two bones. Mm-hmm. I did get a question before if patients, sometimes they'll put their orthotics, like the over-the-counter orthotics, in their sneakers, and then they find that it's painful. So mm-hmm. Take it out. Like, you might not need an orthotic in a sneaker. A lot of sneakers already have really good arch support and really good support on the foot already, that you don't actually need that extra orthotic. How do you know if an orthotic is too much in your sneaker? You'll probably get pain on the top of your foot. And it just feels uncomfortable. So if that's the case, then you don't need an orthotic in that sneaker.
Okay, that's a great tip. I know I've had that happen before, and I think it was when I'd had orthotics in the past, and I just kind of wasn't paying attention to what I was, I thought it was just me tying my shoe, too tight. But
and you're kind of like, why is this bothering me? Yeah, because it can really aggravate your foot if you have like too much support in the shoe. So it's all a trial and error. Don't ever wear orthotics for like the first time for a race. It's common sense, but at the same time, like these little tips sometimes are just helpful to kind of get you in the mindset of taking care of your feet for running.
Okay, so we're going to make sure we get good running shoes for our personal feet and possibly look at orthotics. We might not actually need them. So kind of just, playing around with that, seeing how our feet feel. What are some other things we can do to prevent running injuries?
So one thing that I know runners like to run through pain, and that's okay. I mean, you're athletes. Like I was a competitive gymnast as a kid and did tennis in high school. So like I would sometimes be like, oh, my ankle hurts, but you know, I have that game, I have to train. So I get it. I really do. I understand. But if you look down at your feet, this is one thing that I do see a lot in my practice. If you look down at your feet and you went for a long run and your one foot is hurting you and it's swollen and the swelling is not going down for like a day or two, something's wrong with it. It could possibly be a stress fracture, which is a very serious condition. So, you know, if one foot, you put your feet together and just look down at them and be like, oh man, why is my one foot swollen? Like something must be wrong. And that's usually when patients come to me and say, hey, like I started this new exercise or I started this new class and my one foot is swollen and it won't go down and it's really painful. And that's usually when we find something like is wrong with the foot. So that's something really, really that you have to be aware of, because I know athletes do like to like push themselves like, oh, I'm going to run this marathon. It's okay if my foot hurts. It's okay if my ankle hurts. Yeah. Have you had any experience with that?
Luckily not. I've had other things. I've had IT band injuries, but.
Oh, yes. IT band. Oh my gosh. Yes. I've had IT band injury too. It's really painful. It's always good to stretch too, right? The IT band.
Yeah.
Before you start running.
For sure. Yeah. It was definitely something I didn't know what it was until I had the injury, but then I was like, I kind of wish I didn't have to learn this, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And you're always stretching, right? Like before your runs.
So I do work on stretching, but then also trying to do more like self-myofascial release. So sometimes for clients, even I'll recommend, you know, rolling a tennis ball under the arch of their foot to prevent things like plantar fasciitis. Do you have any tips for that injury? I know we could probably talk a lot about that, but or other things that could help us.
Like I said, we can do an entire podcast on plantar fasciitis. Oh my gosh. I probably see half my patients are plantar fasciitis.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's very common, especially among athletes and runners, even just walkers. New York City, working in New York City, you see, you know, everybody walks everywhere. Yep. But yes, myofascial release is so important for plantar fasciitis. There are so many little tiny muscles between your bones and your foot. And also the plantar fascia, it's very superficial, meaning like it's really close to the skin. And this plantar fascia essentially holds up the arch of our foot. So doing a tennis ball massage, a golf ball massage, and also calf stretches. Calf stretches are really important when it comes to plantar fasciitis. The foot has to make a 90-degree angle to the leg. And if you have tight calf muscles, a lot of times you'll have an overpull of the plantar fascia on the bottom, and that can also cause plantar fasciitis. We don't know exactly why some people get it and some people don't, but it mostly is attributing to less stretching.
Got it.
Stretching is really important to prevent that. And massaging on, like you said, a tennis ball is really good for 10, 15 minutes, or a little golf ball, or even some doctors recommend like freezing, an Evian bottle and just rolling your foot on it for like 10, 15 minutes while you're on the computer. And that helps as well. Awesome. So that's good that you're training your patients or you're training your customers to do that. That's really good.
Yeah. Try to keep them injury free.
Yes. And that's so important too. And have you experienced any of your clients having injuries or stress fractures or anything like that? Or
luckily, I feel like I need to like knock on wood. Luckily I haven't. I've had some, have some, calf tightness and things like that here or there, or had previous injuries, but I haven't had anyone injured in my own, which is, thinking about that, I'm like, wow, I feel very lucky because
you are. That's really, really good. I had a patient I think it was 2 months ago. She had just started a new workout class. I'm not going to mention the workout class, but they had her running on an incline on a treadmill, and she was like, I'm not used to doing this. Like, and sure enough, she showed up in my office with a stress fracture. So, it's, it's it always has to be like a gradual, whenever you're doing something new, some new exercise, even running, like it's got to be gradual. Mm-hmm. Otherwise your body gets overstressed and that's what happens. You get injured. So it's good to try to prevent these things with your clients.
Yeah. And I guess, what are, just to kind of close this out here, because I have like I said, I have so many questions for you. I'm like trying to hold back.
We're going to have to have you come back. I have a lot of information.
What are some, you said that if we saw our foot was swollen, we should see a podiatrist. What are some other reasons that we might need to give you a call?
Sure. Again, it's mostly, there are acute injuries and you could strain or stress anything in your body. If pain doesn't go away with just resting for a day, that is really when you should see a professional. If something looks off, if it looks bruised, if it looks swollen, if it just hurts to walk, and it's been a day or two, then you should probably seek your professional help. Take ibuprofen, take a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, ice it. And then if it's oh man, it's been a couple days, this is still hurting me, then that's really when you should go seek professional help, see a podiatrist, see an orthopedist, sports medicine specialist, any primary care can guide you in the right direction. Get an x-ray. That's so important. And sometimes with stress fractures, your foot will be really swollen, but they won't actually, you could go to one of those walk-in clinics. Mm-hmm. And when it just happens, this is interesting, when a stress fracture occurred, just happens, sometimes they can't see it on an x-ray, but your foot remains swollen when the bone just originally breaks. So if it's still swollen and you suspect a stress fracture, go back to another doctor a week or two later, and they will be able to see it more clear on x-rays. So I can't tell you how many patients that have come in to see me that went to a walk-in clinic or an ER clinic. They say, oh, nothing was wrong with me, but then they're not sure enough they have a fracture in the foot. So.
Okay. So just because it's okay that day, if it's still swollen, kind of just be wary. Don't go out for that 20-mile run.
No, probably not a good idea. You won't make it.
Oh boy.
Pop an ibuprofen and go for a run. I know it's I'll be fine. You might not be fine. So so maybe make an appointment with a doctor just to make sure that, there is nothing wrong. And sometimes you just need that reassurance. Hey, you need a week or two rest and you should be fine. It's just a tendinitis. It's not always something serious. So.
Got it. Well, I really love chatting with you, Dr. Casey. I want to keep you. We'll have to have you back. We'll have to have people send in questions so we can do that.
That would be great. Yeah. Any questions? I'm happy to answer them.
And in the meantime, where can people best connect with you? I'll put all this in the show notes, but just so that it's in their ears at least one time.
Sure. So I have a practice at 295 Madison in New York City. Mm-hmm. I also just started an Instagram called Dr. Glass Slipper, and my blog is coming out. It's almost finished. It's going to be www.findyourglassslipper.com.
Awesome. I love that.
It's a little inspo, Cinderella inspo, what's a famous shoe, right? So it's not, I will eventually do some more with sports and sneakers. Right now it's just more I'm trying to promote healthier feet, healthier ways of wearing shoes. We love shoes. Women love shoes, so we're always going to wear beautiful shoes. But I'm just trying to promote some health and wellness of feet, and so women can take a little bit of care of their feet.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today. And I look forward to keep following the Instagram, getting more tips, and maybe having you back sometime soon.
Thank you so much, and good luck on your marathon. I am so excited for you.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Fit 15. For show notes and more, visit fitarmadillo.com/podcast. See you next time.